I'm Brandi Kruse, and this is Undivided. Today, as elections officials across the country face attacks from the fringes, would nonpartisan leaders be best suited for those roles?
If there's one place that the parties don't belong, it's in this particular seat.
Plus, an undercovered aspect of the nation's border crisis.
If there was a real confrontation, how would that play out?
Ali Bradley introduces us to the private citizens caught in the middle of a public debate. Plus, where our nation stands a year after the January 6th insurrection. I'm Brandi Kruse. Thanks for being here. It's been a challenging year plus for elections officials across the country who bear the brunt of former President Donald Trump's claims of a stolen second term. The result is a segment of the electorate that has so little faith in our democratic process that they'd rather not vote because they don't think their ballot will be counted in the way they intended. The climate around elections is sure to play a role in this year's race for Secretary of State here in Washington. Our former secretary, Republican Kim Wyman, resigned in November to take a job with the Biden administration. Governor Jay Inslee has temporarily replaced her with the Democrat, Senator Steve Hobbs, while the GOP would understandably like the seat to return to Republican hands in November. But one candidate thinks perhaps now more than ever it is time for a nonpartisan to take over that office and maybe restore some faith in the democratic process among those who have lost it. Her name is Julie Anderson. She has served as the auditor in Pierce County, one of Washington's most populous, for more than a decade. And she realizes that as she runs for Secretary of State without the backing of a political party, she has a tough road ahead. This isn't something you've just stumbled upon, right? You've been saying for some time you don't consider yourself either a Democrat or Republican.
Yeah, for quite a while. And I pretty famously said to the News Tribune that if I ran for another office, I wouldn't run under a party banner. And that's the case today.
And you don't like to say independent, right?
Right.
Okay, why is that?
Because independent is an alternative political party, and nonpartisan means I don't belong to any group or political party. Nonpartisan for me is a set of values, not a group. So I'm unaffiliated with any group or PAC or party.
At the same time, doing this is very challenging. You know that. You've been in politics. You get the money, you get the power from the party. Yes. So how do you, as a nonpartisan, not affiliated with either major political party, how do you raise money? How do you do all the things that are required to win these days?
Hard work, friends and family is where I'm starting now. It's early days in the campaign. And I'm hoping that the more people that I talk to, the more word will spread. And there have got to be people out there that are wanting to invest in, I think, kind of what I would call is a movement. I think that they see that the Secretary of State's office is substantially different, that it's ministerial in nature, and that if there's one place that the parties don't belong, it's in this particular seat. And I think that I'll be able to attract major donors and organizations that believe the same thing and really would like to see Washington State be a trendsetter and have this trend spread to other states.
The last year plus have been challenging for election officials across the country. To what extent has that seeped into your office? Have you been targeted? Have you been any of those things? I mean, when we look at what's happened to Kim Wyman, for instance, and other Georgia, have you experienced that?
Well, I don't want to minimize their experience. Intimidation of election officials is a serious business, and I know it's something that the FBI is taking very, very seriously. I've been on lots of Homeland Security calls and briefings about that. But that has not been our experience, neither me or any of our elections staff. Yeah, it is good. And I was proud to say that during 2020, which was a little amped up, we didn't see the voter intimidation, we didn't see hijinks, and Pierce County voters behaved very well. They were enthusiastic. There was activity, there was enthusiasm, there were rallies, but in terms of doing what they were supposed to do and letting other people vote, I was really proud of Pierce County voters.
Good, that's good to hear. You know, I continue to hear from people still there are people who are going to be watching this, Julie, who believe that
Donald Trump won the election in 2020.
He didn't.
Good. I was just going to ask you. I knew the answer, but I had to ask anyway. There are people who believe that there was such widespread fraud in our state that Lauren Culp won the election.
He didn't.
I know, and so I'm glad to hear you say that as well. But these are people who have said that they don't even want to vote because they don't believe that their vote, as written, will be counted as written. How do you try to change the mind of someone who believes that?
Oh, there's several things that I'd like to break that apart.
Yeah.
First of all, for people that are leading the charge on those kind of theories of mistrust, who are amplifying those theories, I'd say, please sue us. Would you just hurry up and lay down the paper and go to court and sue us? Because we're not being provided with any evidence or any documentation. We're being provided with generalized concerns and the possibility of fraud rather than fraud. So we want things to react to, actual evidence, names, records, something for us to sit down with those complainants and work through and explain. And if proven correct, my goodness, we want to pursue action, right? For other folks who are just have thrown their grappling hook into those campaigns, those are just regular everyday citizens who, thank goodness, are civically engaged and concerned and care. So kudos for them for being concerned and caring. But because they've just thrown a grappling hook into a theory without doing any kind of independent work on their own, I really want to hear from them and election administrators in all counties. Definitely, we want them to come take a tour. We want to sit down and have a conversation with them. That's remedy number one. I have not found any individual or organization that doesn't feel better after they've had a visit or a sit down with us. But those are the people who have good faith concerns, as opposed to concerns that are, oh, it's Lauren. No, just kidding. He's scheduling a tour right now.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear it.
He was invited, but anyway. Those are people with good faith concerns, as opposed to folks who are promoting concerns to raise money or perhaps get attention or to gain their own notoriety. So we love giving tours. Another thing that I think election officials can do, and I look forward to doing in a leadership role in the Secretary of State's office, is expanding our audit trail, because it's not enough for people to hear, trust us, we see no evidence of fraud. I think that they want independent verification as much as possible. So increased and different types of audits, having an attitude as an election administrator that that voters don't understand, trust us, we've got this, where's your evidence? Those are responses that just don't cut it anymore. So election administrators need to stretch, and we need to sit down and figure out, what do we need to change? Now, the forensic audits that are being called for, the Maricopa-style forensic audits, we can't just say, see, it didn't work. And we have rigorously rejected calls for a forensic audit in Washington State in all of our jurisdictions. We've all been asked to do that. Because you don't retroactively go back and audit a certified election. Audits are all about maintaining and establishing standards to audit to. So I'm open to having conversations with voters and stakeholders about what is missing in the current auditing systems that we have. And can we create systems to audit to in the future, so that we're all playing by the same rules and expectations, and it's reasonable to audit to those standards. Totally open to that.
That is part of my conversation with Julie Anderson, the Pierce County Auditor who is running as a nonpartisan for Secretary of State. You can watch our full interview by becoming an undivided subscriber on Patreon or Locals.